Joining us now is Menzies Research Centre Senior Fellow Nick Cater. Nick, Treasurer Jim Chalmers has sought to reassure Australians that he will not break another election promise. He has dismissed suggestions that they're considering changes to negative gearing.
Would you like to make changes to negative gearing?
No, that's not something that we're proposing, not something that we are considering, not something that we are working up. We've got, I think, a very broad and very ambitious housing agenda, and we've got a pretty full book when it comes to tax reform, and our focus is on legislating that.
Nick, do you feel reassured?
His word is his bond, of course, Rita. I mean, who are we to question it? Look, you have to be very suspicious of anything the government now says. This is the problem with breaking a promise like that. You've now got a credibility problem across the board. Although I did see some polling at the weekend, which from Redbridge, that showed that there was overwhelming rejection of any move to change negative gearing. And so I think that the one thing the government does obey, if it's not its word, is the opinion polls. So I suspect, and I hope, that Jim Chalmers is on the right track, because this is millions of ordinary Australians just putting a nest egg aside for retirement or just trying to save a bit of money through negative gearing, and it would be a tragedy if the government was to take that away.
Well, we've already got soaring rents, and you can just imagine what would happen to the rental market if they fiddled with negative gearing. It is already an issue because the state governments have gone mad with their property taxes, particularly land tax, and it's driving some investors from that residential market. Now, during that same interview on Sky News, Treasurer Chalmers was asked about the footage of Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce laying on a footpath, looking very tired and emotional. This is what the Treasurer had to say.
You yourself have said you probably overdid it on the drink before in an article last year. Do you have a reaction to this? Should he go from the front bench, do you think?
Yeah, I haven't had a drink for more than 4 years now, Andrew. I think that question that you asked me is really a matter for the National Party. I know that people will have a view about it. I know that people will have their fun with it. From a personal point of view, I don't like to see anyone in that state. I find it a little bit disturbing, and so I'm not going to take shots at Barnaby about it.
What do you make of that? Was that the right response from the Treasurer?
I think it's exactly the right response, really. What's that saying about people in glass houses? But that apart, I just think this is a personal issue. We don't actually know the cause of it. I mean, people are making guesses. And I tend to have some sympathy with Barnaby's wife, Vicky Campion, when she says, what was somebody doing going around filming him rather than actually getting down to see if he was okay? I mean, somebody in that position could be suffering any number of things which could be quite serious. And surely the decent human thing to do is to get down and help somebody, not film them and stick them up on Twitter or whatever.
Well, this was the ACT, so they do things a little bit differently over there. But I wanted to bring to your attention the opinion of feminist writer Jane Caro. She had a take on this. She wrote, "Yikes, Barnaby, on the ground, on the phone on ABC News last night, !" Angus Taylor says we should not jump to conclusions. I agree. But was the same leeway given to Lydia Thorp by, I don't know, Angus Taylor? Nick, are they really comparable, those two incidents? What happened with Lydia Thorp and Barnaby Joyce?
Of course they're not, but of course, Jane Caro can't help but put the stiletto in when she gets an opportunity, which is really very tawdry in my view, and I just think that the whole thing is just ridiculous. Look, and the point about Barnaby is, look, we all know he has his failings. I mean, we've known before. He left his wife for another woman, etc., etc., etc. But the voters are there to judge him on that, the voters of his own electorate in New England, and they overwhelmingly support him, I think, because they actually like a bit of authenticity and a bit of humanity in their politicians to realise that they are, after all, just human beings like the rest of us.
Well, yes, and again, Jane Caro seems to have a very short memory. Well, she mentioned Lydia Thorp, but she also tweeted this. Have a look at this. She said, no female politician, no Indigenous politician could survive a video like this. She was referring to the Barnaby Joyce video. That's what white male privilege gets you, indulgence for your mistakes. Now, again, Lydia Thorp is an Indigenous politician. She's still in the upper house. She's still a senator. And yet there's video of her behaving like this.
All I want to say to the black brothers there, and anyone that we're fighting, any black man that stands with a white little like that, you can all get too.
How the is someone get in Parliament like you?
We've been oppressed all our life in this country.
That was quite a different scenario, wasn't it, Nick? One is a man lying on the ground, mumbling into a phone. The other one is a full-blown fight outside a strip club with all sorts of colourful language and even threats made.
Yeah, exactly right. Look, I mean, I think this whole game of sort of saying, well, your lot are worse than our lot, or, you know, this politician has made more of an idiot of themselves than this one. I don't know if that really gets us terribly far in politics. And I think the voters, look, I mean, obviously people will read these stories. I mean, they've got a great human quality about them. But I don't think at the end of the day it's quite going to influence votes as much as, say, well, the cost of living or the rise in mortgages. I mean, these are the things that really matter around the kitchen table. Everything else is just relatively, is just entertainment, I guess.
Now, let's talk about the hypocrisy of the Australian left, from the activists and politicians to football clubs and even the big corporates. They're all happy to come out loudly and proudly to celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year, but not our National Day, Nick, not Australia Day. There are so many examples I could bring you, but we'll just concentrate on a couple here. We've got North Melbourne Football Club. The Kangaroos posted this for Happy Lunar New Year to all who celebrate, ! Wishing you a safe, healthy and happy year ahead, Kangas. But this is what they posted on Australia Day. They said, we recognise the pain and sadness many First Nations people and the broader community may be experiencing at this time. We'll be stronger together when we can celebrate the history of the country we call home on a date that unites us. Yeah, it's called Australia Day and it's on January 26th, you self-loathing simpletons. We see this over and over again. We saw it with Woolworths. We've seen it with all sorts of corporates, politicians. Surely Australians can't be happy with this. We know the polls show the overwhelming majority of Australians back our National Day, but it seems those in power are determined to talk it down.
That's right. Rita, I spent Australia Day at the Orrery Hotel, which is about 100 kilometres outside Broken Hill in the middle of nowhere, and it was packed. Farmers had come from all around the place. And one of them said to me, we were talking about the Woolworths thing, and one of them said to me, don't they realise we had a vote last year and they lost? You know, as far as most Australians are concerned, the vote on the referendum was much broader than that. They were saying absolutely no to the whole damn lot of the woke nonsense. It doesn't resonate anywhere outside of Fitzroy, North Fitzroy, I guess. And, you know, I just think that any sporting team that pursues this is really backing a dead horse.
Well, I could bring you lots of Labor politicians who posted nothing about Australia Day, but who are very loud and proud on social media about the Chinese Lunar New Year. And Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill is among them.
Chukbuk Namoy, Shinyin Kala, Sorsaday, Chinom Tame. Happy Lunar New Year, everyone, and welcome to the Year of the Dragon.
Her Mandarin seems to be excellent, I'll give her that. Now, I was recently sent a message by a viewer that was checking some water reports on the Victorian Environment Protection Authority's website, and they noticed that the state government-funded website has the Aboriginal flag listed. It displays the Torres Strait Islander flag, but where's the Australian flag? Nick, this is becoming all too common. We are seeing, firstly, the Aboriginal flag and Torres Strait flag appear with the Australian flag, and then sometimes the Australian flag disappears altogether.
Yeah, look, every time I go across the Harbour Bridge here in Sydney, Rita, you know, my heart sinks when you see the Aboriginal flag there on the top of the bridge, because it replaced the New South Wales flag that had been there for, 90 years or so. And I think that was a very, very bad decision. I mean, they did it to save money on a new flagpole, but honestly, once these things have happened, what does it matter? You know, our sovereignty is settled, and let's actually unite under the one flag that unites us all. That's the Australian flag, the one with the little bit that the POM stole from the corner of the top corner. You know, it is our flag. It always has been, always will be, as far as I'm concerned.
Now to the US. US President Joe Biden is at it again. Instead of doing a Super Bowl interview, he decided to post this video on Twitter, X, blaming companies for shrinking the size of their products.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging it just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
Oh, gosh, he looks so old and frail. He's barely making it through a pre-recorded speech from an auto cue. And it's complaining there about shrinkflation. I mean, it's Bidenomics that is causing many of the issues in the economy. What do you think? How do you think that will be received? To me, that doesn't exactly fill you with confidence that he is a virile, healthy, cognitively sound president.
No, absolutely not. My first thought when I saw it, honestly, Rita, was, is this one of those deep fake AI things? Have they put words in his mouth? But it just seems so improbable. And I think that, you know, a lot of Americans, I'm sure, will see it like me. Is this really what we want our president to be focused on right now, the size of a packet of chips? You know, is it really the sort of thing that he should be obsessing over and speaking to the nation about? You know, when we've got the threat of China looming, we've got this volatile situation in the Middle East, we've got the Ukraine, and everything else that's going on. I just think that he should be doing something else. But of course, I guess it really doesn't matter, because it's obvious that he's not in control of the White House. And the real question is, who is pulling the strings while Biden gets out there and fluffs his lines?
Now, I'm going to be speaking to an expert later in the hour about Trump, NATO, and that Putin interview, the Vladimir Putin interview Tucker Carlson conducted. Finally, Nick, I've got to ask you about a Super Bowl ad. America's woke evangelists have upset many Christians with the latest Super Bowl ad they've put together. Let's have a look at what's been called the foot washing ad. It aired during the first quarter of today's game. And let's just have a look at the message it's giving out.
What you know is true. Don't have to tell you. I love your precious heart. I was standing. You were there.
Jesus didn't teach hate, he washed feet. It's been called a foot washing commercial, Nick. Includes a woman outside a family planning clinic having her feet washed. The message is that Jesus didn't hate sinners. He washed their feet. But are they missing something, Nick? There's a bit more to that message. Jesus still considered it as sin. He wanted that behaviour to cease.
Yeah, I think they're missing a whole lot about the Christian message of sin, forgiveness, and redemption. I mean, they're not going to get that because they rejected religion. But it's just another complete misfire, isn't it, from the woke advertising industry? I mean, it goes with the Bud Light thing. You'd think that they'd be waking up to this by now. That what looks good and sounds good in a little hotbed of advertising executives in New York or Los Angeles, they should go out and road test it before they put it on. They won't have to go far outside those capital cities to do it, but it's clear that they live in two separate worlds right now, and if they're serious about actually appealing to the broad audience that watches the Super Bowl, they've really got to get out more.
Nick Cater, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.